Give me the news. I got a bad case of this allegory being painfully accurate decades later. My God. Welcome to Dramatis Personae. I'm Angel Castillo, your host. What is Dramatis Personae? We are a formerly fortnightly, now going to monthly, more info on that later, internet dramatic audio reenactment show where a amateur cast with a professional strength love of Star Trek come together to reenact some of our favorite episodes of all the different Star Trek shows, from TOS through to Voyager, through Enterprise. Sorry, I like to pretend that doesn't exist. Then after we reenact the episode, we will participate in a roundtable discussion where we unpack the different cultural and political messages within both overt and covert. As you can tell from my intro, we are doing this fortnight the Voyager episode, Critical Care, where our dear holographic doctor gets kidnapped. Now let us introduce the titular Dramatis Personae. I will introduce our cast for this episode. I am going to say their names, and then they will say hi and then tell you who they are playing. I'll go first. I, Angel Castillo, will also, aside from being the host, will be playing the parts of Gar and the part of husband. But more importantly, let's move on to some of the media roles. Maxim Rex.
Hey there, I'm playing Paris and also Dr. Disick.
Casey Lowry.
Hello, I am playing Captain Janeway.
Kirsten Moorhead.
Hello, I am playing Orderly 1 and 7 of 9.
Lots of numbers there. Randall C. Brown.
I am playing the emergency medical hologram. I think it's because of the hair here, but
Randall C. Brown, the head spelunker into the uncanny valley. Ben Church.
Hello, I'm Ben, and I will be playing Orderly number 2 and Tuvok.
If only those were in a transporter accident so they could become Orderly number Tuvok. Anyway, David X. Crow.
I'm going to be narrating terrible jokes, apparently.
I mean, you can do that without me being here. We've seen you do it. Cheryl, what you doing?
Hi, I'm playing Boji.
All right. Zach Coates.
I'm playing the Soulless Hospital Administrator, Chelik.
All right. Our usually silent until the post-show discussion producer, fearless leader, Carl St. Lucie.
Hi, yes. Let me just make sure my audio is going. Yes, I'm playing Allocator and Balana Torres.
Excellent. Sarah Horton.
Hello, I'm playing Tebis, Chakotay, and Kim. And yeah.
Tebis really does sound like a Tim and Eric awesome show, great job character.
Oh my God, yeah, it does.
My son Tebis and my other son Targus. Leader Chrisman, who are you playing?
I will be playing Neelix and Generic Nurse today.
Generic Nurse. Which is, more affordable than the brand name nurse on your insurance plan. And then last but absolutely not least, very special place in my heart, Steffi, who are you playing this fortnight?
Hello, I'm Steffi. I'm playing a trio of bit parts, specifically Minor, Kip, and Wife.
All right. Now, before we get into the actual episode, let's talk about how we're justifying being grown adults, getting together and doing nerd playtime. We're also using this show every episode to raise money for progressive causes. So if you go down into the video description on YouTube or into the Facebook comments, if you're watching this, I don't know if it's a word. Anyway, wherever you're watching this, if you go into the video description or the comments, you will see a link to a profile on a website called Tiltify, which is a fundraising platform, and we are raising money for SAGE. Now, SAGE is an organization that specifically advocates for elder members of the LGBT community in the United States. I'll just tell you a little bit about from their website, which is sageusa.org. That's SAGEUSA.org. What do we do? This is from the page on their website. Actually, sorry. This is a specific project they do called Sage Care that I was looking up to tell you guys about. So one of their projects is Sage Care is a cultural competency training program for skilled nursing facilities, healthcare organizations, assisted living communities, hospice and palliative care, those kinds of places. When surveyed, 9 out of 10 LGBT people feared discrimination in care settings if providers knew their sexual orientation or gender identity. Sage Care training helps service providers create more LGBT welcoming organizations, and Sage Care credentials help LGBT people find those trained providers. So not only are they advocating for just in general higher quality of life for the elder members of the LGBT community, people who have if it's a miracle when they live to old age. I'm just being fucking honest there. So like because of that, it is hard for them to find resources and care that deal with them being at this stage in their lives. So that's the kind of work Sage does. So we really, being a diverse cast of people who have come together through their love of Star Trek, we also like to come together and support things that support creating a diverse future that respects the dignity of life for everybody, no matter what color stripes are on their flag, or whose dink they like to donk, or just whatever. Before I even say increasingly weirder things, let us begin with our episode, Voyager, Star Trek Voyager, Critical Care. Please, narrator, take it away before I keep talking.
A storm rages above a coastal city on an unknown planet. A small craft flies towards a massive structure floating above the water. We cut to the interior, where patients are being wheeled around on gurneys in a crowded area. We hear the computer.
Trauma Team 4 to level red. Trauma Team 4 to level red. Code 4 nursing unit, report to level red.
An alien weaves through the bustling hospital and stops as the computer scans him.
Negative for dysplasia, viremia, necrobiosis. Please extend your arms. Species, Dralian. Identity, Gar. TC-15. You may proceed.
Gar walks up to a hospital administrator who is scanning a patient.
Kelly, lucky I caught you.
I wish I had time to talk, Mr. Gar.
Well, all you have to do is listen. I have a new supply of cytogenics.
Your last supply was useless. Expired lots, diluted samples.
Ooh, I have something special this time.
The latest in substandard technology, no doubt.
Oh, this item is far from substandard. And as a gesture of goodwill, I'm offering it to you first.
We don't need another neural monitor.
This is much more sophisticated than that.
I'm sure it has some ingenious use, but I'm not interested.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
That is the end of the teaser. Act 1. The doctor surveys the unfamiliar surroundings. This is not his sickbay.
Where have you taken me?
Holographic construct program with over 5 million medical protocols.
I demand to be returned to Voyager at once.
What's the Voyager?
The Federation starship to which I'm assigned. This man is a kidnapper.
I would never offer you stolen property. I traded warp-grade dilithium for this program.
What's your price?
This negotiation is pointless. I'm not about to perform medical services for a pair of common thieves.
It doesn't seem to be in working order.
An alert sounds dramatically in the background.
What caused their injuries?
You'd better start cooperating, or I will dismantle your program and sell it off one subroutine at a time.
When Captain Janeway discovers what you've done.
Orderlies rush by with trauma victims on gurneys.
Come on, let's go. Clear path. Here we go. Tuck him in there.
We haven't got any coagulants.
Somebody check the reserves.
There are no reserves.
This one's got grade 4 pulmonary burns.
Patient's TC is 4. Transfer to level green.
Level green isn't equipped for this.
His TC's only 4. Take him to green.
Gar moves to deactivate the doctor's mobile emitter.
Don't touch that.
The doctor begins examining an injured patient.
This patient's bleeding seriously. He needs an immediate infusion.
The doctor snatches a medical scanner from Voyager, one of the doctors.
What are you doing? Get away from him.
With technology this primitive, you may as well be using leeches.
Who is this man?
Doctor of sorts. I thought you were withholding your services.
Fortunately for these patients, I am programmed with a Hippocratic oath. It requires me to treat anyone who's ill.
He grabs a scalpel and turns toward another orderly.
This patient needs 20 milligrams anesthetine. Get me a hyperspray.
A what?
The doctor sighs and turns towards the patient.
I'm sorry, this may hurt a little.
The patient groans and the doctor begins operating on his leg. Gar looks smugly at Chelik. Meanwhile, on Voyager, Kim and Paris walk down a corridor dressed in hockey gear. Kim has an impressive bruise on his cheek.
Did you have to program that Nausicaan guard to high stick so much?
Well, you play hockey, you gotta expect a few lumps.
What are we going to tell the doctor? You know how he feels about our juvenile hollow programs?
Relax, I'll come up with something.
They arrive at sickbay and enter.
Hey, Doc.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
I know what you're thinking, but there's a simple explanation. Tell him, Tom.
Right. Well, see, Doc, we were running these invasion scenarios when this species of proto-humanoid.
The doctor scans Paris.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
Are you okay, Doc?
Please take an analgesic and return in 24 hours.
Paris and Kim exchange a look. A short while later in the briefing room, the senior staff are sat around the table. Torres examines the mobile emitter and hands it to Janeway.
The program running in sickbay is from one of Doc's old training files.
I want someone to tell me how this snake oil salesman managed to evade every security protocol on this ship.
I take full responsibility.
I'm not interested in fault.
Janeway tosses the mobile emitter onto the table.
I just want to know how it happened.
Gar spent the night in sickbay. He claimed to have gotten food poisoning at dinner.
He had plenty of time to learn about the mobile emitter from the doctor.
Who I'm sure was more than willing to extol its virtues.
Medical logs show the training file was activated just before Gar left Voyager.
Scan for his ion trail. And let's review safeguards for accessing low security files, shall we, Mr. Tuvok?
Out in the corridor, Janeway has left the meeting in a bit of a huff. Neelix runs up to her.
Captain, don't blame Tuvok for what happened. It was my fault.
How so?
Gar kept complaining how bland his dinner was, so I added a few exotic spices.
I'm not sure I see your point.
I was trying so hard to create something he liked that I didn't take his alien physiology into account. Everyone's assuming he faked his illness, but I might have really made him sick.
It's not as if your cooking turned him into a thief.
No, but if he hadn't gone to sickbay, he may never have come up with a plan to kidnap the doctor, much less have the opportunity to do it.
In my experience, Neelix, men like Gar have no trouble finding opportunities to take advantage of other people.
I just hope there's something I can do to help find the doctor.
When and if that opportunity arises, I'm sure you will make the most of it.
Back on hospital ship, the doctor is treating a patient with Voyager's help.
That was the most impressive cortical bypass I've ever seen.
It's just a question of possessing the basic skills.
If I had basic skills like yours, they'd move me up to level blue. Take this patient to yellow.
You seem a little low on resources here. If I could contact my medical staff, I might be able to get you some additional supplies.
Communications is usually restricted, but the allocator might give you clearance.
Good. Where can I find him?
The allocator isn't a him. It's our main computer.
Well, perhaps it could establish a communications link with Voyager's main computer.
You'll have to submit a formal request to Chelik and support it with Form 83W in triplicate. And even then...
The orderly shrugs and goes to help another patient. The doctor notices a man who can't seem to stop coughing.
Why hasn't this patient been treated yet?
Another patient leans forward to address the doctor.
He's waiting for proton imaging. There are a lot of other people ahead of him.
It's nice to see someone who knows what's going on. What's your name?
Tebis.
Well, Tebis, this doesn't look too serious.
It's just a little osteoextravasation.
Excellent diagnosis.
I hope to be a doctor someday.
Really? Well, I hope your working conditions are better than these.
Wouldn't be so bad if they'd let us listen to music.
It would certainly improve my mood.
Not just that, music has great healing power.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Tebis groans and doubles over in pain. The doctor and Voyager rush over to him.
Exhale slowly.
Can't you give him a neural blocker?
He's already had his allocation.
The doctor frowns at the medical scanner. He gestures for Voyager to step away from the patient.
The leg injury isn't all I'm picking up. He's got some kind of systemic disease.
It's a chromoviral infection. We have 12 cases down here. He's in the final stage.
Is there an established treatment?
Cytoglobin injections.
These scans don't show any cytoglobin in his bloodstream.
He hasn't been given any.
Why not?
He doesn't have a high enough TC.
TC? What's that?
Ah, there you are. I'm happy to report that I've acquired your program from Gar. Please come with me.
I will not. May I remind you I'm being illegally detained? Or hasn't the rule of law reached the society yet?
We follow the allocator's rules, and it's determined that your services are required on level blue.
Please, doctor. The allocator knows which patients need help the most.
The doctor hands his medical scanner to Voyager and begrudgingly goes with Chelik. Inside the hospital turbolift, the doctor and Chelik are standing uncomfortably.
Level blue is your critical care area, I presume?
Level blue is the area where it's most critical that we provide excellent care.
They arrive at level blue and Chelik exits the turbolift.
These patients will be your chief responsibility from now on. Do whatever you can to make them well.
The doctor is surprised to find a clean, spacious, and nicely furnished treatment area that starkly contrasts with level red where he just came from. Whereas level red had patients packed in like sardines, level blue patients have beds in curtained, more private areas with room to breathe. Orderlies smile at each other and visibly are less harried than their red level counterparts. That is the end of Act 1. Act 2. The doctor turns to Chelik in disgust.
Why are these patients getting preferential treatment?
They have a higher TC than the others.
Indulge me, what's TC?
Treatment coefficient. The allocator assigns one to every patient. It determines the level of care they receive.
How is this coefficient derived?
Through a complex formula that involves profession, skills, and accomplishments.
How is any of that relevant to medical treatment?
An agricultural engineer is obviously more important than a waste processor.
Important to whom?
Society. When your resources are limited, you have to prioritize.
So you base treatment on whether patients have particular abilities.
It's much more complicated than that. The allocator assesses the entire individual.
And reduces his life to a number.
It may seem impersonal, but it's what the Denali have contracted us to do.
Dr. Dysek, a level blue physician, chimes in.
Chelix
On
people are
mute.
known throughout the sector for their administrative skills. Before they came here, we were a dying race. Eco disasters, famine.
Dr. Dysick, Chief of Medicine, the medical hologram I told you about.
Are you in charge of what passes for care on level red? Because those people are suffering.
Intriguing technology. Can we use him to treat patients yet?
That's what he's here for.
In some societies, it's considered rude to refer to someone in the third person while he's standing in front of you.
I'm sure you'll make good use of him.
Back on Voyager's bridge, the crew are at their stations.
The warp trail ends here. Gar should be directly ahead.
All stop. Red alert. On screen.
A beacon appears on screen.
It's emitting a false warp signature.
Looks like we've underestimated Mr. Gar again.
Now what?
There may be another way to find him.
What do you have in mind?
He traded us high-grade iridium, which has a very brief half-life. His ship is slow. Logic suggests he acquired the substance within a radius of 3 light years. Logic suggests he acquired the substance within a radius of 3 light years.
Cross-reference our sensor logs and long-range scans.
Sorry. 2 planets, no atmosphere or technology, a T-class nebula. Here's something. An asteroid with approximately 200 humanoid life sites, subterranean structures. Sounds like a mining operation.
If that's where Mr. Gar acquired the iridium, they may be able to help us find him.
Tom, how fast can you get us there?
Less than 2 hours.
Do it.
Less than 2 hours later, they arrive at the asteroid.
We are being hailed.
Open a channel.
A miner with an E appears on the view screen.
I want my iridium back now.
I beg your pardon?
I've scanned your ship. I know you've got it on board.
Yes, we obtained it from a man called Gar, a merchant who...
You mean thief?
So you have had the pleasure of meeting him.
He was here 2 days ago. He sold us 3,000 induction units. He was gone a day before he realized he'd also stolen 20 kilos of ore.
We had a similar experience. Maybe we can help each other.
How?
Do you have any idea where we might find him?
Will you return my iridium?
By all means. But Gar only traded us half of what he stole from you. However, we might be able to get the rest of it back.
All I can tell you is that the induction units came from a planetoid called Velos.
Back on the hospital ship, the doctor is shadowing Dr. Dysek as he treats level blue patients.
You may go.
Your surgical technique is impressive.
Well, you've obviously had experience with cellular repair.
As a matter of fact, I've done extensive research on the subject. I'd be happy to share it with you, but we'll have to contact Voyager to get it.
You'll have to discuss that with Chelik. He authorizes all communications. It's time for this patient's next injection.
Requesting 1 cytoglobin injection for patient B3, priority blue 7 gamma.
One cytoglobin injection authorized.
The nurse removes the hyperspray from a dispenser on the wall and injects the patient on the bed.
Does this patient have a chromoviral infection?
No. Why?
I was told cytoglobin is the standard treatment for that disease.
Cytoglobin also prevents arterial aging.
Will that be all?
You may go.
This patient's arteries appear to be healthy.
At the moment, but daily injections increase life expectancy up to 40%. We prescribe them for all level blue patients.
I just saw a boy on level red who's dying. This medicine could save his life.
This woman is a chief engineer of an irrigation facility which provides water to half the subcontinent.
So her life is more valuable?
Keeping her healthy contributes to our survival. Can you say the same for the boy on level red?
Who knows what he'll accomplish if he has the chance?
If he becomes more valuable to society, his TC will rise, and then he'll receive better treatment.
He may not be around long enough.
I'm sorry he's sick, but our society's much better off since we began following the allocator's protocols.
Some of you are.
A short while later, down on level red, the doctor approaches Voyager as he finishes treating a patient.
I never expected to see you again.
Why do you say that?
Level blue is much more prestigious.
Agent of my concerns. How is he?
Not well.
The doctor scans the boy.
His conditions deteriorate so rapidly.
His coenzyme allotment's been reduced.
Are we here to help these people or kill them?
His TC is just too low.
Maybe we can raise it.
That's not possible.
If it's purely a function of statistics, we can simply input more data.
We're not authorized to do that.
Voyager, when you look at your patient lying there, you have to ask yourself, what can I do? What must I do? We can amend his database to include additional skills.
Such as?
His extensive knowledge of neutronics.
He doesn't know anything about neutronics.
We can say he does. What's the harm in trying?
Amend patient R12's TC to include an expertise in neutronics.
Unable to verify. Amendment denied.
You see?
Tevis wakes up.
Hello.
Lie still.
What are you doing?
Trying to get you the proper medication.
You're wasting your time that you could be spending on other patients.
You have as much right to treatment as anyone.
It's not your fault.
There's nothing you can do.
Back up
Nurse?
on level blue.
Nurse?
Yes, doctor.
Why hasn't this patient received her additional cytoglobin injection?
Additional?
If you'd examined her chart, you'd see that I've increased her dosage.
Dr. Dysick didn't say anything.
The nurse reaches for the pad on the end of the patient's bed, but the doctor is faster.
Dr. Dysick is at home with his family. Would you like me to contact him so you can explain why you're not doing your job?
No, doctor. Requesting 1 cytoglobin injection for patient B3, priority blue 7 gamma.
1 cytoglobin injection authorized.
The nurse moves to inject the patient, but the doctor stops her.
I'll do it myself.
Can I assist you?
You may go.
After the nurse has left, the doctor surreptitiously pockets the hypospray and goes down to level red, where he uses it on Tebis instead. And that is the end of Act 2. Over to you, Angel.
Oh, man. Don't you hate how Discovery put all that politics into Star Trek? Not like these shows. We're going to take this moment to again remind everybody, speaking of caring for people regardless of their station in life, that we are raising money for SAGE. Their website is sageusa.org, but if you want to kick in some money, we have a Tiltify link down in the video description. Tiltify is our fundraising platform that helps raise money for SAGE. Let's talk about some of the other important work that SAGE is doing. This is again from their website. You can read about it there. They have a national LGBT housing initiative. So one of the most important decisions we make as older adults is that where we're going to live our senior years. For all older adults, affordability is often a challenge. For LGBT older adults, so is finding a place that's welcoming, where we can feel free to be ourselves and be treated respectfully and compassionately. With our National LGBT Elder Housing Initiative, we're addressing these challenges on several fronts by building LGBT-friendly housing in New York City, advocating nationally against housing discrimination, training elder care providers to be LGBT culturally competent, educating you about your housing rights, helping builders across the US replicate LGBT-friendly housing. And, you know, I think plenty of people understand this, but it always needs to be said that, like, housing is healthcare, and housing is, suicide prevention. And so it's really cool that Sage, realizes that, and also, our most marginalized, are the highest prone to experiencing houselessness in the United States. And so that's just the kind of, it's yesterday I spent several hours talking to some elderly tenants who were getting their building bought out by a new property owner, and they were sort of getting bullied into signing these cash for keys agreements. So like I just personally witnessing how hard it can be for elder people. Anyway, yeah, go kick some bucks down on the Tiltify link. We are currently at $180 that we've raised. Thanks to Kirsten and Steffi for helping raise us to that goal. But you, the viewers at home, you can contribute, and we will thank you on air, and your name will be committed to the annals of internet history. And who doesn't like leaving that kind of legacy behind? Enough for me. Let's get back to critical care. Please proceed with the next act, David.
Act 3. On Voyager, an alien with an impressively high forehead appears on the view screen.
He convinced me to take the induction units on assignment. That was more than 10 days ago. I haven't heard from him since.
You appear to be an experienced merchant, Mr. Kip. Why would you trust someone like Gar?
He came highly recommended.
By whom?
A buyer I know. He said he's been trading with Gar for years.
Do you know where we can find this buyer?
We cut to Janeway and Tuvok questioning the buyer.
Then I am the fool who said that Gar could be trusted.
Sounds like you've changed your mind.
I should have known it was a mistake, but, well, you see, I've never been able to say no to my wife.
What does she have to do with it?
Well, she's the one who asked me to recommend Gar.
Then she must know him well.
They're friends.
May we speak with her?
She's, well, she's not here.
Do you know where we might find her?
She left me. She left me.
Janeway and Tuvok exchange a pained look. Then we cut to the ex-wife.
You're a woman. You've seen my husband with your own eyes. Oh, sorry. You've seen my husband with your own eyes. Overweight, depressed. You would have left him too, especially if you'd met someone as exciting as Gar.
Yes, he's very exciting.
That's why you're looking for him, isn't it? You want him for yourself.
I assure you, I have no romantic interest in him whatsoever.
Why? Not good enough for you?
No, it's not that. It's just...
Janeway sighs, leans over, and takes Tuvok's hand.
I already have a man.
Harris and Kim try and fail to do their best not to laugh. Tuvok is not amused, but doesn't resist.
We have a business opportunity for Mr. Gar, one that will expire if we don't find him soon.
He's on his way to the gambling tournament to Selleck 4. When you see him, tell him to hurry home.
Tuvok reclaims ownership of his hand. Janeway looks like she needs more coffee. Back on hospital ship 4-2, Hebis wakes to find the doctor standing over him.
How are you feeling?
Better.
That's what happens when you get the proper treatment.
But I'm not authorized to receive cytokinin.
You are now. You'll need several more injections, but you can expect a complete recovery.
Whatever you did, they'll find out. They'll punish you.
You're assuming I've done something illicit.
Didn't you?
Of course not. I simply had a talk with Chelik, explained to him what a bright young man you are, and he had the allocator recalculate your TC.
Never met a doctor like you.
Well, it's not hard to stand out when the general level of competence is so low.
There are patients on this level who deserve a higher TC than I do. Could you talk to Chelik about them?
The doctor gives Tebis a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Later, we see him carrying a case as he walks towards Voji.
Ah, Voji. You're not busy, are you?
Well, actually, I was just...
I want you to help me dispense these injections.
Where did you get the cytoglobin?
Level blue? Where else?
You stole it?
I prefer to think of it as reallocation. We're going to treat every chromovirus patient on this level.
Do you have any idea what kind of trouble we could get into?
We? Then you will help me.
No, absolutely not. Modifying data files was bad enough.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want you to do anything to compromise your ethics.
I'll help you.
You should be in bed.
Actually, now that he's improving a little, activity will do him good. You can go back to doing whatever you were doing.
Tebis and the doctor find an unconscious patient.
The best place to inject him is here, in the lateral artery.
Tebis administers the cytoglobin.
Excellent work. It's nice to see someone in this hospital that has a future as a healer.
Virgie walks over to them.
If we each take a third of the patients, maybe we can finish before someone catches us.
The three of them start making the rounds. Up on level blue later, Dissect confronts the doctor.
Who do you think you are? Prescribing unnecessary medications for my patients.
It wasn't unnecessary.
If you believe that, you're incompetent. Or perhaps malfunctioning.
I was simply trying to increase our allocation of resources.
What are you talking about?
I did some checking. Last month, Level Blue's total medication requests were down by 6%.
Because our cure rate was higher.
Exactly. Because you performed so efficiently last month, the allocator will determine you're able to do with less next month. If we don't order more medication now, we may not get it when we need it. Think about it, doctor. If you don't have the proper resources, your cure rate could go down. If that happens, the allocator may assign you to a lower level.
Chelik comes out of his office.
Are we having a problem with our newest piece of technology?
Actually, he seems to be learning the system quite well.
Down in level red, the doctor enters the bustling medical ward. Virgie spots him and approaches excitedly.
3 of the patients we injected are practically virus-free.
What did you expect?
Maybe we could reallocate other medications, treat more patients.
Now you're thinking like a doctor. And to support your efforts, I've arranged for resources from Level Blue to be diverted here on a regular basis.
How did you manage that?
Let's just say Dr. Dissect and I have developed a professional rapport. Sometimes I even surprise myself.
We may actually make these people better.
That feeling you get from healing someone. Infectious, isn't it?
They walk over to Tebis' hospital bed. Tebis is holding a medical scanner.
Where did you get that?
One of the technicians was going to recycle it because it wasn't working, but I think I fixed it.
The doctor uses the device to scan Tebis.
It seems to be in good condition. And so do you. You'll be well enough to leave soon.
Couldn't you say I'm still sick?
Don't you want to go home?
If I do, they'll send me to work in the refinery with my father.
What about school? Your medical training?
Oh, I'd never be authorized for that.
He's right.
If I stay here, you can teach me, and I can help you treat your patients.
I'm not planning on being here that long myself.
Then I can help Dr. Voji.
We'll see what we can do.
On the Voyager bridge.
I have picked up Guard's ship directly ahead.
Again?
I'm reading his biosigns.
Any sign of the doctor or his admitter?
Not yet.
Should I hail Gar?
If we let him know we're here, he may try to slip away.
We could drop out of warp at close range and grab him before he knows what's happening.
I like it. Tom? Tuvok?
Voyager suddenly drops out of warp over Gar's ship and locks it in a tractor beam.
He's hailing.
I guess we put him in the mood to talk. On screen.
Thought we were friends, Captain. Why am I being treated this way? I think I deserve better.
Where's our doctor?
I have no idea. I certainly hope nothing's happened to him.
Scans are complete. Neither the mobile emitter nor the doctor's program are aboard Gar's ship.
Well, of course they're not.
Voyager shakes at an impact.
He's trying to destabilize the tractor beam with a feedback pulse. Compensating.
Don't bother, Harry. Just beam him directly to the brig.
On the hospital ship, the doctor approaches Tebis's bed on level red.
Tebis, wake up. Time to make our rounds.
The doctor finds an elderly woman in the bed instead of Tebis.
Locate patient R12.
Sorry, 1 second. Patient R12 has been transferred to level white.
Tebis has been moved.
I know.
What's level white? Some kind of patient recovery area?
It's the morgue.
That's the end of Act 3. Act 4. On hospital ship 4-2, on level blue, the doctor enters Chelik, the administrator's office.
I demand an explanation for the death of that boy.
I'm responsible for thousands of patients. You'll have to be more specific.
His name was Tebis.
The doctor receives a blank look from Chelik.
Patient R12.
Chelik looks the patient up on his computer.
Acute chromal viral disease.
He was recovering.
Apparently, he developed complications.
What kind of complications?
A secondary infection that spread rapidly.
How was it treated?
It wasn't. The patient had exceeded his medical allotment. It seemed someone had given him unauthorized injections. Did you think I wouldn't find out?
Don't you have any ethical standards?
You are hardly in a position to speak to me of ethics. Lying? Stealing? Any other crimes you wish to confess?
I was trying to save lives.
And I'm trying to save a society. Do you really think patient R12 is going to help me do that?
His name was Tebis.
He wasn't contributing. He was a drain on resources.
You're not just rationing healthcare here. You're getting rid of the sick and the weak.
If the boy had been fit, he would have survived.
Why don't you just put a phaser to their head?
We're healers, not killers.
I'm going to expose you.
To whom? The people who employ me? They brought me here to make the hard choices they don't want to make. From now on, I'm restricting you to level blue. You've done enough damage on red.
You mean those patients that I treated? Yes, that was inconsiderate of me.
It was. You managed to exceed their annual medication allotment in a matter of days. They're being sent home.
They'll die.
You should have considered the consequences of your actions.
Please don't make them suffer for my mistakes. It won't happen again.
I'm making certain of that. From now on, your time will be strictly regulated.
Meaning what?
I've interfaced your holomatrix with the allocator. Starting now, it will determine where you go, when you go, and what you do when you get.
The medical hologram will now commence treatment on level blue.
The doctor disappears from Chelik's office and reappears next to a hospital bed a little way down the ward.
You have 6 minutes to treat patient B3.
On the Voyager brig, Gar is in a cell speaking with Tuvok.
I know where he is.
Not now, perhaps, but you know where you. Not now, perhaps, but you know where you took him.
Last time I saw him, he was in your sickbay.
If you refuse to cooperate, your knowledge of his location can be extracted.
How?
A mind meld.
What's that?
An invasive and disturbing procedure.
Dinner time!
Mr. Neelix, I am in the middle of an interrogation.
Commander, you know better than anyone that Starfleet has strict guidelines about allowing prisoners to eat.
Very well, I'll wait.
Neelix enters the cell and hands Gar a plate of food. Gar begins gobbling it up.
There we are. I'm glad to see you enjoying a meal. When you got sick last time, I thought my food was to blame, until I realized it was just a ruse for you to get close to the doctor. I used Talaxian wormroot as the base.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad you like it. Some people react badly.
React? How?
Oh dear, I hope you're not getting sick. If it's the wormroot, it's going to get a lot worse.
What have you done to me?
The usual symptoms are abdominal spasms, which increase in severity for 30 hours, 40 at the most.
Tuvok to sickbay.
Don't worry, Mr. Tuvok, it's not fatal. It's horribly unpleasant, but there's an antidote.
Give it to me!
Unfortunately, our doctor is the only one authorized to administer it. Maybe if you remembered where he was.
Tuvok takes Neelix to one side.
Mr. Neelix, have you deliberately poisoned this man?
Relax, he's just having gas pains.
Your actions are not only against regulations.
Didn't I hear someone threaten a mind meld?
I was merely trying to encourage the suspect to be more forthcoming.
Neelix looks over at Gar, who is clutching his abdomen in pain.
I think he's getting all the encouragement he needs.
Back on the hospital ship, Voyager is treating a patient on level red.
Excuse me, doctor.
What is it?
I need to prepare this patient for discharge.
I'm not finished with him yet.
But Chelik's orders are to prepare the
Or to
patient.
discharge the patient at the end of the shift. The shift isn't over, is it?
No, sir, but I need time in order to prepare
I'll
him.
tell you when he's ready.
Dr. Voji, report to level blue to assist Dr. Dysek in surgery.
Voji hurries away. Up on level blue, the doctor is scanning a patient as Voji comes out of the turbo lift.
Voji,
I didn't realize that any of this even existed.
I need to talk to you.
I don't have time. I just got a message from the allocator that Dysek needs me.
I'm the one who sent for you. I used his access codes.
Oh,
I need you to smuggle my mobile emitter on level blue.
Time has expired for treatment of patient B1. Proceed to patient B3.
The doctor hands Voji a medkit just before he disappears. He reappears next to a patient across the room and walks back to Voji.
The medical hologram has 1 minute to treat patient B3.
You have to help me.
12 patients on level red are being sent home because of you.
That's why we have to hurry. We may still be able to save them.
You've already endangered my patients, and now you're asking me to risk my career? Why should I help you?
Because I have a plan to heal those patients. That's what doctors do. We heal. So choose, what kind of doctor are you going to be?
The medical hologram has 30 seconds to deactivation.
Do you hear that?
How can I get you off this level?
Deactivate my mobile emitter and put it inside this Celandid medkit. Its shield will shield the signature.
And then what?
Take it to level red and reactivate me.
What are you going to do once you get to level red?
The medical hologram has 10 seconds to deactivation.
There's no time to explain. You'll have to trust me.
Voyager does as he is asked. Down on level red, the doctor is working at a medical console as Chelik approaches.
I suspect young Dr. Voyager helped you escape.
He had nothing to do with it.
No matter. You're becoming far too troublesome. I'm going to have to deactivate your program.
Chelik reaches for the mobile emitter. The doctor grabs his arm, pulls him down across the console, and injects him.
Voyager,
What's wrong with him? What are you doing?
a little experiment in empathy.
You told me you were just developing new treatment protocols.
A single protocol, actually.
They put Chelik onto a bed.
You're only making things worse for yourself.
As a matter of fact, I'm making things worse for you. I'm going to make you a patient in your own hospital.
End of Act 4. Act 5. Chelik is lying on a gurney as the doctor pushes him through the level red ward.
What was in that injector?
A neural blocker combined with the same virus that affected Tebis.
I trusted you.
And Tebis trusted me. You remember Tebis, don't you? Patient R12? Maybe this will jog your memory.
Pushes Chelik towards the wall scanner.
What are you doing?
Patient R12, species, Denal, identity, Tebis.
This is ridiculous. I'm not Tebis.
But the allocator thinks you are.
How did you do that?
Simple. The allocator identifies patients by reading blood factors. I altered Chelik's by injecting him with antigens from Tebis. Now, why don't we see if we can get your condition treated? Requesting 1 cytoglobin injection for patient R12.
Treatment denied.
I order you to medicate me now.
Ordinarily, I would. But if the allocator says no.
Is this some sort of revenge?
Not revenge. Leverage. I want enough cytoglobin to cure every infected patient on this level.
We don't have an adequate supply.
There's plenty on level blue.
Where it is being used to prevent arterial aging.
Those patients will survive without it. But a dozen people on this level won't. I will not let them die.
Voyager approaches the planet. On the bridge,
Entering orbit.
In for the doctor's signature.
back on the hospital ship, level red, Voyager scans Chelik.
He's dying.
As soon as we get the cytoglobin, we'll be able to treat all the level red patients, including him.
You said it yourself. Doctors heal. We don't make patients sick.
I don't know any other way to help these people.
Dr. Voyager, I need the medicine now.
Sir, I only have level red clearance. You know I'm not authorized.
And find someone who is.
Voyager rushes off. Back on the Voyager bridge, Torres is at her console.
I've got him. He's aboard a vessel above the northern continent.
Can you get a lock?
It's not going to be easy. His program seems to be interfaced with the main computer.
Hail the ship.
They're responding. Audio only.
This is Hospital Ship 42, Allocation Module Alpha.
This is Captain Janeway of the Starship Voyager. I would like to speak with someone regarding a member of my crew who is aboard your vessel.
Administrator Chelik is currently unavailable.
Then may I speak with someone else?
Only Administrator Chelik is authorized to communicate with alien species.
On level red, Voyager returns with Dr. Dysek.
Are we having a problem here?
Dysek, finally.
I'm sorry. I had to tell him.
What are you waiting for? Give me the cytoglobin.
I don't think I can.
What are you saying?
Cytoglobin isn't authorized for level red patients.
Dysek!
I don't want to break the rules.
I made the rules.
Then you should be pleased I hold them in such high regard.
Back on the Voyager bridge.
I'm sorry, Captain. I can't transport him without damaging his matrix.
Then you'll have to go down there and get him.
Aye, Captain.
Chakotay?
Torres and Jane and Chakotay head for the turbo lift. Down on level red, Chelik is not looking so good.
Don't tell me you're allied with this hologram.
No, but he has given me insight into some of the intricacies of our system. For example, did you know if I don't request enough resources for level blue this month, I won't get what I need next month?
What are you talking about?
You know, Doctor, one way to increase your allocation of resources on level blue would be to increase the number of patients. I know at least a dozen people who should be treated for arterial aging. Saving their lives would be just fine.
Perhaps we should have them transferred to level blue.
If you're looking for a second opinion, I concur.
Well, Chelik, what do you think?
It's absurd.
We'd have to transfer you to level blue as well. You'd get your cytoglobin.
Torres and Chakotay beam in the background.
Doctor,
Nice to see some friendly faces.
we're going to get you out of here.
Who do we talk to about accessing the main computer?
I'll be with you in a moment. I'm with a patient. Do we have an agreement?
Yes.
Later, on Voyager in sickbay, the doctor is scanning 7 with a tricorder.
You've managed to stay well while I was away. I'm giving you a clean bill of health.
You were only away for 4 days.
A lot can happen in 4 days. Injuries, infections, malfunction.
As you said, I'm fine. Thank you.
I was wondering if you'd mind doing me a favor. I'd like you to give me a checkup.
Have you been experiencing problems?
No. But as you said, I've been off the ship for a while, interfaced with an alien computer.
7 operates a computer console.
Your program appears to be operating within normal parameters.
Really? What about over the past several days?
There's no indication of diminished capacity.
No problems with my ethical subroutines?
None.
I see.
You seem disappointed.
While I was aboard that ship, I poisoned a man.
Deliberately.
Yes. I was trying to force him to let me treat patients who were dying.
You were prepared to sacrifice an individual to benefit a collective.
No offense, 7, but I don't exactly aspire to Borg ideals.
You were hoping your behavior was the result of a malfunction.
The doctor nods.
I'm sorry, doctor, but I must give you a clean bill of health.
The doctor looks down with concern in his eyes, ruminating on his choices. The end.
But Tagar in the next biobed violently shitting his guts out. That was critical care. I made Dave corpse right at the very end. Guys, all right, that was the end of the episode. We're going to proceed with our post-show discussion. But before we get into that, first we're going to cut to some credits so we can properly credit everybody involved. So stay tuned, hang tight. welcome back to Dramatis Personae. And you know, we're coming up upon next month is going to be our anniversary episode. You know, a project that started, you know, after pandemic lockdown.
Yes.
And it just seems so appropriate that we do. I mean, the penultimate, the last episode before our anniversary is that we do this episode that talks about, you know, unjustly allocating and manufacturing scarcity of medical supplies during a pandemic where fucking rich people are skipping the line to get vaccines, et cetera, et cetera.
I can't. Yeah.
Hey, Carl.
Hi.
You know, why don't you share some of your thoughts, since we had the rare treat of having you acting in the episode, and maybe we can get you to talk a little bit more during the discussion too.
Sure.
What are your thoughts starting with this episode?
I mean, it's eugenics, isn't it? It's literally like merit-based. It's sociopathic eugenics. I mean, and like, I mean, I even tweeted in the middle of the episode, it's like U.S. healthcare is just eugenics light, but no one's willing to talk about that. And it just makes me so mad.
Well, it is interesting how we can, and by we, I mean American society. Well, I mean, whatever. People can, the capitalist society uses people's productive output as like sort of a way to justify, to like rank them as far as their value to society, you know, and sort of that can be used to sort of make people okay with eugenics, as long as it's not something like on its surface bigoted, like, you know, based on race or religion.
Well, it's funny because it's funny you put it that way, because the people who are benefiting don't contribute anything to society. They don't have any productive whatever it was you said. They don't do it. They don't do that. It's the people who are suffering and are not being given the resources to survive that are providing all of the, again, productive
productive output. Well, yeah, I guess I get you. That's a very good counterpoint, because it's like two things at work here. It's people's productive output being used to judge their value, but also then the misguided logic of like job creators being like the most important productive output.
Well, and in the episode, there's a comparison between like a waste management person and like an engineer of some kind. And I'm like, well, waste management is really important too. You can't not have that.
That's like an important distinction in societies, if you have a waste management system or you don't.
Well, but I mean, if you remember, if any of you have seen Joker, it's set against the background of a garbage worker strike, because like, of course people are gonna go fucking crazy when there's rotting garbage in the streets.
Well, let me tell you, I'll just pick up on that and say that the very first winter I lived in New York, I lived in South Brooklyn, and not only was it like blizzard conditions, like the worst that New York had seen in decades, but also there was a sanitation strike. So there was garbage outside of our house for
what year was
month.
this?
This was 2010.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I might have been living in New York anyway. But it
was insane. I mean, well, and it just makes me think of like this whole conversation around like, you know, conservative talking points are like, well, if you don't want like a minimum wage job, maybe you should do something besides flip burgers at McDonald's. And it's like, there's just, it's just amazing that on the one hand, these people like, they acknowledge the need for these services, but then like completely discount them on the other. It's really nutty.
It's an interesting thing in the episode too, where it's like that character Tevis. It's all like, yeah, I want to be a doctor. I'm actually really intelligent. I fixed this medical tricorder. Like, and then they're like, yeah, but if I get healed too quickly, they're going to send me back to work with the mines with my dad. And it's like, oh, so this is also that same cyclical nature of like, so we're going to combine this all into a treatment coefficient and value people based off of that. It's going to just keep their kids and everybody else in that same cycle of being where they're at because they don't have the ability to change or the ability to choose something else.
Yeah. COVID, Alejo wrote in chat, COVID and essential workers.
Yeah. It's funny. So here in Pasadena, where I live in Pasadena, California, we're trying to pressure city council to pass a hero pay ordinance for like $5 extra an hour for like frontline grocery and
That's amazing.
and drugstore workers. And like Ben pointed out and Alejo pointed out, there is this sort of a paradoxical thing about like, we already acknowledge that these workers are essential, but then it's like we have to go through this weird bureaucratic process to compensate them for putting themselves at extra risk to perform an essential task. That is this weird. Yeah, that is one of the contradictions inherent in capitalism.
Well, and I have some friends who do like Instacart and that kind of thing. So they are literally the people putting themselves on the line to go get groceries to people.
Right.
And then, they deliver it and the tip not only doesn't improve after checkout, in some cases they remove the tip entirely because they can edit that after they've gotten their delivery.
Man.
Lovely.
So that has
Disgusting.
happened.
It's disgusting. It's
Yeah.
Well, let's take advantage of the fact that we are an international co-production. And David, actually, before we started the episode, you shared, you're in the UK where you have the NHS, but you shared that even with a sort of socialized form of healthcare called NHS, there is kind of a bit of a needing to assign priority value to some patients. Can you share with us what you were talking about before we went on the air?
Yeah, so there was a couple of things. First of all, there were a couple of headlines. Or did I take myself off mute? Yeah, I did. There were a couple of headlines in the last year about older people and people with learning disabilities being automatically marked as do not attempt resuscitation.
Right.
On admission with COVID diagnoses. Now that can be a legitimate decision for patients. I don't want to undermine that. Allowing people to die with dignity is a really important part of an effective medical system.
Right.
And both of those groups are more likely to have conditions which make the chances of survival and getting complications more likely with COVID. However, the fact that it appears to have been a blanket decision that was applied to everybody on admission rather than patients being assessed individually looking at their current medical needs raised a lot of questions. And I believe that there's an investigation ongoing. I don't want to sort of short circuit that and make assumptions about what's going on. But even in a socialized system, we have the situation where we had a limited amount of resources and people felt, whether they had to or not, they felt they had to make decisions which decided who was going to get the treatment and who wasn't going to get the treatment.
So in the United States, right now the whole vaccine situation is, it's whatever private gigantic pharmaceutical company is able to distribute theirs for whatever, is able to distribute theirs efficiently and like what's most affordable to people. What is the vac? And I, there's a headline recently that like there's a discussion about whether or not to, release patents on the vaccine so that way more people can produce more of the vaccine. Are there similar circumstances going on in the UK?
So we are at the point now in the UK where 1/3 of adults have had a vaccine, at least one vaccine dose. And so I'm going to sound a little bit proud, but I'm going to back that down in a couple of seconds. So let me have a post moment first. So first of all, the UK has had the most efficient rollout and most effective vaccine rollout in the history of the world that we're aware of. The sort of volumes of people that we're talking about here are absolutely astonishing. That is because we asked our NHS, an established organisation, which is effectively a network of health professionals across the country, to do the job. And the NHS responded and did so massively efficiently. And I used to work for the NHS. I'm massively proud of the NHS and the work they've done around vaccination. At the same time, the same government managed to give £32 billion to a conglomerate of private corporations to create a track and trace system, which to date has yet to track or trace anybody with COVID.
Yeah.
right? This is literally money being poured down the drain.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, whilst I'm proud of the vaccine side of things, you know, I don't want to say everything's peachy over here because
All right,
it's not.
it is a socialized healthcare system still operating under a capitalist economy where the profit motive is still I mean, it's like to take it back to the episode. Let's see let's have Randall, who plays our EMH, you know, just so I think this episode really gets to the whole idea of like scarcity of supplies being the scarcity being artificial because of like us deciding, you know, like for example, in the real life example that I'm talking about is like the profit motive of like the fucking patents on vaccines restricting the efficiency of how people can produce and distribute it, you know, to make sure that the people who like came up with it get enough money for it. And then here we see the artificial scarcity, you know, done through the allocation of the TC. Like, how do you think, what you play the doctor, what do you think is the doctor's role in this episode as far as expressing like the audience's being like the audience's way into this story, expressing what the writers want to say? Go run with that prompt, whatever you want to say.
Oh boy. I mean, I feel like everything he's doing just seems to be like the logical conclusion of any like non-sociopath watching the episode, right? Like, I mean, all he's really saying is, hey, why don't you stop doing all this like unnecessary preventative stuff and reallocate it to the people who need it. And it just seems like such common sense that I would like to think that he's the voice of the audience. I would like to think that, and I think that's probably how I feel. But unfortunately, it can't be entirely true because our system doesn't work like that. It doesn't work.
Well, I think that that's a good segue to then the role of like Voyager. And Cheryl, I want to like ask you, like, so Voyager to me seems to be like the role of the character of somebody who like realizes the system is fucked up, but just sort of like understands that like because the system is what is, it's what always should be. Like what do you get out of sort of the arc of Voyager in this episode?
Yeah, he was kind of like the most flip-flopping character in the whole episode. And he's on one hand, you think he sees and has empathy for the patients that are dying or the patients on the red level, but on the same hand, he's one of those, but it's about my career. On the same hand, I don't want to be fired. I don't want to lose my job. So I know that the level blue people are, the ones that are somehow more, deserving of the cytoglobin or whatever it is that they're getting, that treatment that they're getting there. But, then he'll come back and say, well, let me help you anyway. And, he's just kind of like all over the place.
So Zach, you play Chelik, and I think one of my favorite lines is near the end where it's like, Dysek is like, I don't want to break the rules, and you're like, I made the rules. Like, why do you think people don't like it? So I went to a fancy Ivy League college where all of us were so proud to learn the rules we were also proud to learn the phrase social construct. We were like, gender is a social construct, race is a social construct, but then we wouldn't extrapolate it to just be like all of fucking society is a social construct. So we have the ability to reform it as we will. Like, did you like tell me your thoughts on like, the role of Chelik as far as expressing that idea, what you get out of it?
I mean, Chelik is really, sort of just a guy who's got his blinders on and is doing his job. He's taking everything to the logical conclusion of where he exists in the system. And he's just doing what he thinks is correct and logical from that perspective. The realization of it all is like, even at the end of this episode, I don't think he realizes, that he is in this social construct and he has the power and the ability to change it. he still thinks, oh, I'm going to die. I've got to just, sort of go along with this because if I don't, I'm dead. It's not like he ever gets brought out of this society that we talk about where we're all just, confounded in this smoke and mirrors thing. We don't really see patient B12. He doesn't know who this boy is. He doesn't know that this boy has, aspirations, and he is interested in growing himself and doing other things and, like trying to be a doctor. Like, that's a wonderful thing that somebody wants to do, and he might have the aptitude for it. And like, this society doesn't allow him to do that. And it's just interesting that Chelik is so blinded to all of this. And I think he really represents a large portion of the American populace that wouldn't know if they were looking at smoke and mirrors, or even know what themselves look like from someone else's eyes.
So that's a good segue to Tebbis. So Sarah, you play. I can't say the word Tebbis without thinking of John C. Reilly as Dr. Steve Brule saying that I think I broke my Tebbis. But yeah, I mean Tebbis is sort of this avatar for like, why it's like people like equality of people talk about equality in this country, but people aren't given equality of opportunity. Like what do you feel like there's been any experiences in your life of that you sort of identify through Tebbis of like just like things you wish you could do that you're just not given access to?
I mean, yeah, probably, but you make do with what you have, but and it's nowhere near as serious as what Tebbis is going through. I mean,
sure,
poor kid, but I mean, yeah, probably there are things I don't know.
I don't know, I was just saying like because like I don't know, for example, like I keep grappling with these ideas, like something like this. I don't know if you might have something you might relate to this, but like I keep grappling with these ideas of like going back to school sometimes, like maybe going back, getting my PhD. And that thought is like always immediately countered with like, how are you going to pay for it?
Oh,
Yep.
How are you going to find the time? You tried to work full time, and I get that.
Yeah, so it's like it is amazing how we can like. There are things that like I'm sure everybody can relate to, having the feeling of like there is something that like I see that, David. The things that we could achieve if only like our material circumstances allowed us to. Like
absolutely.
Like Max, you sort of recently got your like massage therapist certification, right? Or how recently was that? Like,
no, that was about 12 years ago.
That's the opposite of recent, but
it feels like just yesterday.
I'm confusing you with somebody else more recently.
But I am currently in school for my bachelor's in
there we go. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I never finished my bachelor's. I did go for in the US we have it's a technical degree, basically it's an associate's. So I've gone back for my bachelor's, and then I'm also flirting with the idea of going into physical therapy, which would require a master's or a doctorate depending on how I wanted to do it. So, and that's something I'm struggling with, is like, do I make that kind of investment? I do think that it would be helpful for my clientele, and it would be helpful for a lot of people to have someone who's openly trans and is a doctor, or is at least a physical therapist, or I'm already doing really well as a massage therapist with all of my specialties, so it's kind of hard to make that decision to advance yourself in that kind of way, because it's not only for what could I do with it, because that's just how you justify it. It's right. Also like for me, it'd be kind of cool to have a doctorate, so
right. Yeah, the question isn't should I do this because I'd enjoy doing this and I think I'd be good at it. It's like
you have to justify it.
Yeah.
And you have to like weigh, will I be like, because it costs so much money
right
to go to school, will I be able to
it?
get that back from the job theoretically that I would get, right?
Absolutely.
Oh boy, yeah, it's amazing how easily this episode ties through like the issues of both healthcare and education.
Yeah, and I would actually, this episode talks a little bit about like allocation of resources.
Yeah.
And it goes into like, the doctor talks about how if they make sure they allocate enough for this month, even if they don't need it, they need to make sure that they ask for it so that they'll keep getting that much for next month. And that's a problem in higher ed, a huge problem in higher ed. If people don't budget and don't use their budgets, then they get taken away from them, and then they need them later and they don't have it.
It's
Kafkaesque.
Yeah.
Ben, what were you gonna say?
It's something that just occurred to me is that it's also an example of a fake meritocracy.
Yeah.
Because they say, oh, these people contribute more, but it's also apparently very clearly a caste system.
Oh, sure.
Because when the doctor says, but you want to go to medical school, and the kid says, they're never going to allow me. It wasn't even a matter of, oh, I won't be able to afford that. It would be, I would never be authorized to do that. So it's very clearly only these people are allowed to contribute what we say must be contributed in order to be worthwhile.
Exactly. It's not even the desire. It is you literally have to be up to a certain standard before you can even make that choice.
Or even the ability.
Yeah.
That's why, like, it's that kid clearly has the aptitude, and in a true meritocracy, they would see that. And there would be like, it would almost be like, no, you're not allowed to do anything but be a doctor because you're allowed. But it's
there's also, this reminds me of another popular sci-fi franchise. You might have heard of it, Angel. It's called Babylon 5.
Tell me more.
There's a race in Babylon 5 called the Minbari.
Yes.
And they're known for their caste system. In fact, the three castes are a key factor of their society. So they have the worker caste, the religious caste, and
the warrior caste.
The warrior caste. Now, I don't want to point fingers, but is it possible that that reflects American patterns of behavior at all?
Well, the interesting thing about I don't want to make this like entirely spinning into Babylon 5 lore, but the difference between Minbari and American governing philosophy is that if you remember the governing body of the Minbari, the Great Council, is supposed to have equal representation from the three castes. It's a council of 9 with 3 from the worker caste, 3 from the warrior caste, 3 from the religious caste. So the relationship between the caste system is not meant to be hierarchical. There's different levels of prestige assigned to, different ones, but as far as power, but then sort of Delenn, and I mean, it gets rebalanced in a way that's favorable to the workers, but I don't want to spoil how that happens. But anyway, that is I will always discuss an example from Babylon 5. Hey, Steffi, I want to talk with you a little bit because I like hearing you talk, and you haven't talked that much yet. So let's talk about the sort of Gar B plot, which I kind of like how during this episode where the A plot is this more like sort of serious treatment of like, how unjust we distribute like healthcare. It's like the B plot is about like a swindler, like a fucking hoodwinker who then is the one responsible for starting off this whole plot in the first place. Do you what did you make that connection? What kind of like ways they sort of like underscore each other are you getting?
Yeah, I mean, an unjust system is there are going to be unjust people who are going to profit from that, I think, but it's interesting contrast to someone like Gar with someone like Chelik, who is like, Chelik is like an official swindler, basically, whereas Gar is kind of I'm sorry, I'm not really trying to sort of get the points together, but
it's okay.
It's I'm sort of trying to make some kind of point about like
well, it is interesting how like somebody with institutional power is seen as like respectable, even though they're basically pulling, they're grifting people. Whereas like somebody who's just sort of working on their own is sort of seen as like an opportunist, petty thief, even though they're still grifting somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is like, Gar is known as a thief, and yet the system tolerates him, because it needs him to provide, whatever gizmos that that they use, you know. So
Oh yeah, Lord knows we've got plenty of room for grifters in real life. Okay, so we gotta wrap it up soon. So I think I want to. It's been a bit of an intense bummer of a subject to discuss, but I know bummer means something absolutely difficult to the Brits and the UK people. It's been a sort of a depressing topic to discuss. So I wanna end with a round robin question that's a little bit more on the lighthearted side, which is, if you kidnapped the holographic doctor from Voyager and you could make him perform any kind of task in your household, what would that be? And I'll go first, and I'll just say I would like the doctor to vacuum in my apartment. So let's see who go. Let's have I'll just go by who's nearest me on Zoom. Randall.
Well, besides the sex stuff. Yeah.
You answer whatever you want to answer.
I mean, if it was a cleaning thing, it would definitely be dusting. I just hate dusting. It's
Look, I'm not gonna police anybody's fantasies or deciding where to go with a prompt.
I can't. It's the shaved head is just, you know.
Yes, I get that. I get that.
Like, yeah.
Cheryl, what would you do with a holographic doctor?
I guess since he's holographic, I would have him rub my feet at night when I'm trying to fall asleep.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, Lita, what would you use your Picardo for?
I think I would have him actually do doctory things like chronic pain sucks. So please come around and shoot me up with anesthetine anytime I need it. Post-workout, pre-workout. What did I do that for? Kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah. All right, Max.
I would have him organize the medicine cabinets in my house, because we just kind of we buy Band-Aids and all the other stuff and we just kind of toss them in there. And I feel like he has a pretty good feel for the best way to organize that.
Oh yeah. You keep your hair ties in with the Band-Aids. I feel this is an inefficient system. Casey, you go.
I would really like to have a personal cook, so I would make the doctor into my personal cook. And I also just really think that any task that any of us would give to him, he would probably just complain the whole time. But that might be part of the fun of it.
I feel like if he would be cooking and he would be singing opera while
maybe
cooks, he might enjoy that.
That might be nice. Yeah.
All right, Ben, you go.
Well, my first thought had been to make him take care of our cats. Because I just think it would be really funny to see the doctor having to deal with our cats when our cats are just like meowing, just like for either because it's time to feed them or they don't want us to be in a part of the house that we're in. But I also thought it would also be funny, and you know, I'm apologizing to a fictional character, but to make him sing metal.
Hell yeah. All right, Sarah, what would you use? What would you use him for?
Totally, it is a very pandemic specific answer, but I would totally have him oversee my daughter's virtual schooling.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so migraine inducing trying to get her to do her school. So that would be mine.
All right, Carl.
So pool boy, obviously, but pool boy in one of those like one-sided Speedos that only has the strap on one side. You know, those horrible. I would make him wear that and clean my pool.
Excellent. Zach?
I would have him clean all surfaces, like disinfect every single surface in my house. It's just one thing that I never seem to want to do, like cleaning counters, cleaning the floor, all that shit. I hate it.
All right. Let's see. David.
So, I mean, cleaning is obvious because nobody likes clean. And okay, maybe we've got some weirdos, but you know, nobody likes cleaning. But what I don't like doing is arguing with my husband. So what I would do is like, when my husband's wrong, get the doctor to sing opera.
Make him the emergency marital hologram. I like that.
Well, that has other implications, which I'm not sure quite where I was going.
That was Randall's idea. All right, Steffi, take us home. What would you do?
I would get to make phone calls for me.
Oh, hell yeah.
And like go to appointments with me whenever I had to speak to like somebody medical and they were just going to fob me off and ignore my symptoms. I'd get him to be the authoritative person.
Hell yeah.
To say all the things that I want to say and actually get something done.
Excellent. All right. Well, before we wrap things up, I just want to announce just how we're proceeding from here. So from the next episode forward, which is going to be our anniversary episode, we are going to be moving from a fortnightly cadence to a monthly cadence in the interest of being able to spend some more time preparing and produce more quality over quantity. So our next episode, our anniversary episode, is going to be on April 11th. Did I get that date right? April 11th, which is about 4 weeks from now. We are going to the next generation again, and we cannot resist doing this episode. It is futile. We are doing the best of both worlds. So come back in a month and you get to see us tackle one of the most formative and important episodes to the entire Star Trek canon. So in the meantime, please continue. If you're watching this in replay or you just haven't donated yet, check out Sage, down our Tiltify link down in the video description, down in the comments. Kick out some money over to Sage. And so on behalf of our wonderful cast putting in all the effort this week, on behalf of Maxim Rex, Casey Lowry, Kirsten Moorhead, Randall C. Brown, Ben Church, David X. Crow, Cheryl, Zach Coates, Carl St. Lucie, Sarah Horton, Lita Chrisman, Steffi, and myself, Angel Castillo. Until next time, ex Astris Beatitudo, and live long and prosper.